Hi guys, welcome to another video of mine. Now this video is all about IELTS writing, and this one we are considering task 1. Now I know many people struggle with IELTS writing, and what we do is basically we pay too much attention to task 2 because obviously it carries more marks, but that doesn't mean that you should ignore task 1. That's the big mistake that many students make, and that's the reason that they don't get the mark or the band that they need in IELTS writing. So, as I always say, you should never ignore task 1 because it's equally important that you practice task 1 and make sure that you get a band 7 or above so that when they take the average, you should get a band 7 or above in IELTS writing. And in this video, I'm going to tell you 3 things that you must do to ensure that you get a band 7 or above in IELTS writing task 1. And guys, this one is basically for academic IELTS. So we'll be talking about graphs and bar charts and things like that. Okay, so let's get started. Tip number 1, always present a clear overview. Now you might be asking me, what is an overview? Well, whenever you get a bar chart or a graph or whatever kind of information you get, it is basically looking at bigger picture. You have to ask yourself these questions. What is happening overall? What is the overall trend? Okay, now let's talk a little bit about graphs. And in particular, we're going to look at line graph. Well, as you can see on the screen, you will have a lot of points in the line graph, but what you should remember that you never have to describe each and every single point shown. Okay, so on the screen you can see that there is a graph given, and it is regarding, according to title, it is union membership in the United States over the period of 1930 till 2010. And there are 2 lines given. One is a blue line, which shows the percentage of the employed workers, and the red line shows the percentage of wage and salary workers. So, as you can see, there are many points. This is point 1, 2, so many points. There are so many dips. There is a steady rise and things like that. But you're not going to explain each and every single thing. When I tell you to present a clear overview, it means you have to look at the overall picture. Okay? And that's what you have to ask yourself. You have to think to yourself, what is happening overall? For example, if I tell you about this graph, you can see if you look at the red line, okay, which is the percentage of the wage and salary workers, you can see that it started around 30 approximately, okay? And by the end of the period, it finished around 10 or 12, approximately 12, 10, you can say. So you can see that overall, it was a decrease over the given period, okay? Whereas the blue line, which represents the percentage of the employed workers, it started around, in 1930, it started around 7 or something. Well, guys, it's just an approximate, okay? And it finished at just over 10. So that showed an increase, while the red line showed an overall decrease. So that's what you have to think to yourself. What is happening overall? What is the overall trend of the line graphs, okay? And that's what you have to write in the overview. And it's very important, according to the IELTS examiner, the mark scheme that they use, they tell you that in order to get a band 7 or above, you should present a clear overview. So I'm going to tell you another example. As I told you that you have to think of the general or the overall trend. What is happening overall? What is the bigger picture? So you might ask me how I can do it. Maybe you find it difficult to see the overall trend. So I'll tell you a very simple method to do that. So we are looking at this graph, and there are 3 lines given. And according to the title, it's about incidents of cognizable crimes in India. And it is from the time period of 1953 till 2007. And the crimes that they are considering is the blue line. The blue line is the murder rate, the number of the registered cases of murder. Green line is the kidnappings, and the red line is the rape. Okay. So, in order to find the overall trend, or in order to know what is the overall trend, these three lines when you're writing an overview, you're gonna look at the first value and then the last value. Okay. And then you see whether it's an overall increase or whether it's an overall decrease. And guys, remember here we are talking about line graphs. Okay. About the tables and things, it's a little bit different, and I will try to make another video regarding that. But here we are talking about the line graphs. Okay. So you have to see overall, is it increasing or is it decreasing? Okay. So as you can see, for example, if we look at the red line, which represents the number of registered cases of rape, so rape cases, you can see it started here, and in value was around 20,000 registered cases. Okay, so it was started less than 5,000 cases, but by the end of the period, it was around 20,000 cases. So obviously, from roughly 5,000 to 20,000, it's an overall increase. Okay, so that's what you have to do for your line graphs. Okay, to find the overview, you need to talk about each and every single line. Like, we're not talking about each and every individual point in those lines, but overall we are talking about, because there are three categories: the kidnap, rape, and murder. Okay, so that's what you have to do. Now guys, tip number 2: make comparisons where relevant. Even when you get an IELTS question, right, if you read the question, they will always tell you that you have to summarize the information and make comparisons where relevant. And this is also in the mark scheme, guys. So wherever possible, wherever you can make comparisons, you should. Okay, you should compare, you should tell the similarities, and you should tell major differences between the data shown. So I'm again gonna use the same graph. And if we look at this graph, it shows the rate of 3 different types of crime in India from over the time period of 1953 till 2007, as we already saw before as well. So if you have to make comparisons, let's say if you get this graph, right, and it's showing the crime rate of murder, rape, and kidnap over this time period, and it's showing the number of registered cases, if you get this graph, let's say in your IELTS exam, how will you make comparisons? How will you compare things? How will you contrast things? Okay. Comparison basically, it means like you have to tell the similarities and you have to tell differences between the data shown. So what is the similarities between the number of registered cases of these 3 types of crime? Or what are the differences? Okay, so let's look how will we write about this graph. Well, we can see the murder rate was the highest throughout the period. This is something which is very essential, right? We can see that from 1953 till 2003, murder rate was the highest. Okay, and we are comparing, when I say it was highest, or the most number of cases was for murder, then it means I'm comparing the number of registered cases or the murder rate with other two. So I'm comparing with all. Whereas this red line is the number of registered cases of rape cases. You can see that overall it was always the lowest. Okay, so when we are comparing all these 3 things, we realize that murder rate was the highest, while the rape rate was the lowest. Okay, so this is one point that you could write while making comparisons. Okay, also another point that you can write if you get this graph is, you can see that the green line, it represents the number of registered cases, the kidnappings, right? So you can see that at the beginning of the period, right, it was the second highest, because obviously it was always in between the murder and the rape, right? So it was the second highest to start with. But by the end of the period, as you can see that it crosses So, although the number of kidnapping cases were the second highest to start with, the incidence of murder and kidnap cases finished at the same value. So you can see this point, right? This point where they coincide. So at the end of the period, the number of murder cases and the number of kidnappings or the kidnap cases, they finished at the same value. So here I was comparing murder and kidnap. And this thing is really important because you can see that obviously already it started as the second highest, but it became almost the same as the murder, which was the highest overall. So this is something really important. So that's how you compare and you contrast things. Okay, that's what you have to do. Remember, guys, task one is just not descriptive. Okay, you have to analyze the data, and this is how you analyze data. Okay, so you have to compare and you have to contrast, just how I showed you here. Now, tip number 3 that I've got for you guys is paragraph properly. Now, guys, always remember, you should have a good structure to your writing. Okay, it's very important. Your writing should have a good structure. It should flow easily. You should structure your writing in such a way that it is easy to follow. The examiner should find it easy to read. So that's how you should paragraph. So let's say you get this in your IELTS, how would you group the data? So basically, when you paragraph, you have to group the data in such a way that it is easy to read and it is logical. Okay? So for this chart, if you get this bar chart in your IELTS exam, well, you can see that first it is showing the rape at the national level, number of police recorded offenses in United Nations in the year 2012. So they're looking at 2012. And it's comparing the rate at the national level for all these countries. Okay. Now, if you got this bar chart in your exam and how would you group the data logically into paragraphs? How can you paragraph efficiently or properly? Well, the trick is you have to write about all the things that are similar, the trend that are similar, you group them together in one paragraph. Okay, don't worry if you don't understand it because I'm going to tell you how. Now look, here, because this is the easiest to see, you can see the rape at the national level, the number of cases in these countries were very low from Hong Kong to Indonesia, right? 1.7, 1.6, 1.5, 1.4, 1, 0.9, 0.9, 0.7. So they are very similar. And what is similar is that the number of police recorded offenses in these countries from Hong Kong to Indonesia, they are very low and they are very similar as well. Whereas if you look at Jamaica to Finland, this is kind of similar trend. Okay, so you can group these together in one paragraph. So in one paragraph, you will talk about all these countries. In one paragraph, you will talk about this. And Sweden, well, this is something very prominent in this bar chart. So I would like to talk about Sweden in just one paragraph. And guys, remember, there is no right and wrong when it comes to paragraphing, okay? But what you have to do is you have to analyze the graph and you have to see how you can group the data together so that it is logical. You have to find what's similar and what's different. Now, the reason why I would write in paragraph 1, I would talk about Sweden only is because it is very different. The number of cases in Sweden are very different and it is also the highest out of all. And you can't group them together because it's very different from the other countries. So in paragraph 1, I would talk about Sweden and I will tell like it is the highest, or the number of police recorded rape cases were the highest in Sweden. And maybe I can compare and contrast with other things, but I will still talk about Sweden in one paragraph. Then in paragraph 2, I will talk about countries from Jamaica to Finland because the number of rape cases in these countries are very similar. So I can group them in one paragraph. Whereas in the third paragraph, I will talk about countries from Hong Kong till Indonesia because they are similar and I can group. That's what I have to do when I paragraph. That's how I decide about which country do I write in which paragraph. Is I see what is similar and I group the similar things together in one paragraph. So that's how I will divide my writing in 3 paragraphs for this kind of bar chart if I get this in my exam. Okay, now guys, all these 3 tips that I've told you, I've deduced them from basically the marking scheme that the IELTS examiner give. And this is also I applied all these things in my writing as well. So this is something, and I obviously in writing I got a band 7.5. So they've already been these things have already been tested and tried. This is not something I'm just making up. So these are the 3 tips for today. So as I already said, it's very important to present a clear overview. Okay. Second tip that I gave you guys was the fact that wherever possible, whatever data you have been represented with in a line graph, try to make comparisons, try to tell the similarities and tell the differences, as I explained with this graph. And the third tip that I gave you, that always give a good structure your writing effectively. Okay, it's very, very important. And for that, you have to see that how you can group the data together. The things that are similar, you will group them together, you will talk about them in one paragraph, and then the other things in the other paragraph, so that there is a structure and a good flow to your writing. And it's easy because, guys, remember, this is part of the marking criteria. So guys, this was all for today. I hope you liked the video. Well, if you found the video helpful, please like the video and share it with your friends. As I say, sharing is caring, so more and more people can benefit from this. Also, if you're new to my channel and this is the first time you're watching my video, kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can benefit from all the other free IELTS videos. I have got videos regarding all 4 sections of the IELTS exam, and obviously they are free so that you can benefit from them. Also, thank you so much for watching. Good luck for your IELTS preparation. And remember, guys, as I always say, stay positive, but work very hard because that is the only way to success. And if I can do it, I'm sure you can do it as well. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.